What is up, guys? Random Modium here. So today we're going to be talking about G2 and the LEC. There will be spoilers for the G2 spring split. So if you haven't watched it yet, you don't want it to be spoiled, this is your spoiler warning. But G2 was able to pull off the victory. They were able to claim the spring split. And I don't think that surprised a lot of people, but the way they did it was very surprising. And that's why I specifically wanted to make a video on this topic. I know I haven't been making a lot of videos recently. I apologize for that. We just moved into a new house. My mom moved down because she's struggling with cancer. Obviously, we have the COVID-19 stuff going on, but I am still working because I'm considered an essential worker. So yeah, lots of stuff going on. Unfortunately, I've not been able to make a lot of videos recently. I'm hoping to get back into it a little bit more in the very near future. But this was just too juicy. I had to bring this up. But this video is going to be very raw and uncut. Not going to edit it in any way. I'm just going to kind of just spitball and just give you my thoughts. And hopefully it doesn't go on too long. But G2 was able to claim the victory. They were able to avenge their loss against Mad Lions in the semifinals, and they were able to beat Fnatic 3-0 in the finals. And what was really, really surprising about that is the 6 games that they won in the semifinals and the finals were all with Protect compositions. And this is very strange because G2 is not known for running Protect compositions. In general, they traditionally run mainly catch compositions and a little bit of attack compositions. They're really known for their catch composition. So G2 pulling out the Protect composition for the semifinals and the finals, very, very strange. And they also did quite a few of other things that I've been advocating for a long time. And I definitely want to break all of that down. So real fast, we can see that I have all of G2, Fnatic, and Mad Lions matches for the entire spring split here. Hopefully it's large enough for you guys to see. But you can see that G2 ran catch compositions 13 times. They ran attack compositions 7 times, protect 2 times, siege 2 times, and split 1 time. So you can see that they did not have a history of running protect compositions in the spring split. Fnatic ran attack compositions 13 times, catch compositions 7 times, protect 4 times, siege 0 times, and split 1 time. So you can see the Fnatic was primarily an attack comp team. And then Mad Lions ran attack 13 times, catch 8 times, protect 3 times, siege twice, and split 0 times. So they were also primarily a attack-based team. But if you actually look at Mad Lions towards the end of the season, they ran almost exclusively catch compositions. So Mad Lions ran a lot of catch compositions towards the end of the season. They ran a lot of attack compositions toward the beginning of the season, but their identity seemed to be more of a catch composition centered type of team. So why is this good for G2 if they want to run a protect composition? Well, protect compositions are very strong into catch and attack compositions. And this is something that I have been advocating for over a year. I've been saying that I think that protect compositions are kind of secret OP at the professional level because attack compositions and catch compositions make up about like 80% of the compositions that you see at the professional level. So I can go over to my team composition tracker that I have. I'm still at around 67% correct prediction with 854 games that I've tracked so far. And you can see that the presence at the professional level, attack compositions, the presence is 54.5% of the time. Catch is 24.9% of the time. And then protect is 11.4% of the time. So that means that if you run a protect composition, you're going to be in a favorable matchup close to 80% of the time. You're going to be in an even matchup roughly 11% of the time if they also run protect, and you only would be in a disadvantageous matchup, meaning if they ran siege or split, about 9% of the time. So you can see why it's so advantageous to run protect at the professional level, which is why I've been kind of like surprised that a lot of professional teams haven't caught on to that. But it seems like G2 has caught on to that, and that's really exciting to see because G2 is already, the best team in the West, and to see them continuing to innovate and continuing to kind of push themselves and figure out new ways that they can be even better is really exciting to see because I think that this type of strategy could prove really, really good for them at the international level. I think that their chances of winning world championship go up dramatically if they're able to continue adapting, especially in the drafting phase. So yeah, this got me so excited for G2. The fact that they are adapting and they're figuring out new ways to counter their opponents, and they really kind of destroyed Mad Lions and Fnatic in a way that I don't think that most people expected. And you could see that the only game that they dropped was Mad Lions in Game 3, where they ran a attack composition and they ran into Mad Lions catch compositions. So attack compositions are not favored into catch compositions, and they actually lost that match. The rest of the time, they ran protect compositions, and Mad Lions ran catch compositions the entire series, so they had an advantage. And then against G2, Fnatic ran attack compositions every single time, and G2 ran protect compositions. So again, G2 had the advantage, which is why G2 was able to sweep Fnatic 3-0. So with the rest of this video, I do want to go through the drafts a little bit more and kind of talk about it a little bit. If you guys want me to do like full VOD reviews of the games, I'd be happy to do that. I just want to try to minimize the amount of time this video will take, so I only want to cover the draft phases since there are 7 games that I would like to cover. But yeah, this kind of shows the power of the draft phase. It shows the power of protect compositions. And it also shows the importance of the support pick. The support pick really was kind of the unspoken hero in both of these drafts. And that's something that I've been trying to advocate for a long time. So a lot of people think that support is kind of a throwaway pick in the draft phase. And I think support is arguably the most important pick. And I typically say that you should try to delay the support pick as long as possible. But the only time I say that you shouldn't delay the support pick is if you're going to use that support pick early in the draft to basically shape the type of team compositions the enemy team can play, or try and push the enemy team in a certain direction. And that's exactly what G2 did in their semifinal series against Mad Lions. You can see that Game 1, G2 gets blue side. I believe the Mad Lions had actually side selection choice, since they were the team, they beat G2 in the winners bracket. So Mad Lions chose his red side, G2 gets blue side, and you can see that they pick up the Yuumi first pick. So they pick their support first. So what this is indicating is that they want to go towards a Yuumi Ezreal. So basically, this is kind of similar to a lot of teams that'll pick up either the Xayah or the Rakan with blue side first pick, and they'll try and get the other team to pick away the other side of the lovers duo and basically force their team in a certain direction. So they pick the Yuumi, trying to force Mad Lions to pick the Ezreal, because I feel like them picking the Ezreal gives them an advantage later on in the draft, and you'll see what it does. So they pick up the Ezreal and they pair it with the Leona, which is kind of, it feels kind of bipolar, because Ezreal is more of a sieging marksman, and Leona is somebody who is engaged, like full-on engaged. So you can already see that this Yuumi pick throws Mad Lions off in their draft. They don't really know how to respond to it, and you can already see that with the first 2 picks, you've got a sieging marksman paired up with an engaged support, which is just a little bit weird. You can make it work, because obviously Ezreal can arcane shift forward and things like that. But I would think that you would want to pair Ezreal with a lot of other supports. Leona is not the first support that comes to mind with the Ezreal. So you can see that they pick up those first 2 picks, and then G2 immediately responds with Lee Sin Azir. So the Lee Sin actually doesn't fit very well into the protect composition. This Lee Sin pick really is a pick away from Shadow, who's a really great Lee Sin player, and I don't mind it. You can have things that are a little bit off flavor in your composition, as long as you don't deviate too far from the core of the composition. So Lee Sin is a fine pick, early game jungler, helps get your lanes ahead, especially if you want to draft scaling lanes like an Azir, like a Vayne, like a kog'maw, things like that. So Lee Sin, not a bad choice. It just doesn't help you that much in that mid to late game to execute on that protect comp win condition, except using the kick basically as a disengage tool. You can see that they also blind pick the Azir. So they're putting a massive priority on the Azir. We've been seeing this much more at the professional level. Azir is rising in priority a lot. And this is kind of these three picks you're already seeing like, oh, okay, I've got the Yuumi, I've got the Azir. This is setting me up for either Siege or Protect. So they're already showing pretty heavy duty Protect right now with a little bit of Siege thrown in. But Mad Lions respond with the LeBlanc, which is really, really heavy catch. And I feel like this is a huge drafting error by the Mad Lions because they're already showing Protect and Siege. And you draft somebody who is catch, and catch is actually weak into both Protect and Siege. So I think this is a complete misread on the draft. It feels like they're playing for lane phase rather than playing for the entire game. And if you actually watch the game LeBlanc, she's not very effective. She can't do that much against this type of a team composition. So anyway, draft continues. They pick up the Olaf to counter the Lee Sin, or at least try to match his aggression. Olaf, again, is one of those type of picks that he's going to kind of struggle. Like, what can he do? He can't really... Well, he can try to run through the Yuumi, but he's going to take all sorts of damage from the Azir, and the rest of Olaf's team can't follow the Olaf. So if Yuumi lays down her ultimate, yeah, maybe the Olaf can run through using his ultimate, but nobody else can. So nobody can really follow up on that Olaf engage. And then G2 rounds out their composition with Vayne and Set. And both of these champions just scream Protect composition. So Set, great in a Protect composition. He's a juggernaut. He has a huge threat radius. He's got massive AoE abilities that you have to avoid. He has his ultimate, which allows you to basically... any type of engager, he can disengage the engager, and it just sets up perfectly. So you can see they've got a double carry Protect comp. They've got the Azir and the Vayne, two like super high DPS carries. They've got the Yuumi for the utility. They've got Set for disengage. Lee Sin can even act as disengage if they need him to, for another way to displace the enemies that try to engage. And then Mad Lions rounds out with the Gangplank. And I actually don't mind the Gangplank because Gangplank can be good into a Siege type of a situation. I think the real flaw of Mad Lions draft is the LeBlanc. I think that they should have gone towards a Vel'Koz or a Xerath or a Veigar or something like that. Something that is more of a sieging type of a style, things like that, because you already have drafted the Ezreal. You might as well try to kind of all in a little bit more on the Siege, because how does G2 engage if you have really good Siege potential? You really limit a lot of their options. G2's composition is really only good when you're trying to engage into them. So having that range advantage is really important for Mad Lions to have. And I feel like they shook into a bad matchup by picking that LeBlanc. I would have really preferred to have seen some type of artillery mage or some type of other long range mage that could have come in rather than the LeBlanc. And actually, Vel'Koz and Xerath have like great matchups into Azir as well. They have really favorable win rates. So I do think that Mad Lions misplayed a little bit in the draft, and I really do have to commend G2, just really great draft. Went for the Protect composition because I knew that Mad Lions favored catch compositions, and yeah, they definitely won that draft, and they ended up winning the game. So game 2 looks kind of similar. So that's game 1. Now I'm going to game 2. So again, G2 has side selection now. They pick blue side. The bans stay roughly the same if I remember correctly. Yeah, bans are identical in the first ban phase, and then once again, first pick the Yuumi. So Mad Lions says, "Oh, we're not falling for this again. We're not going to pick the Ezreal." So they go for the Lee Sin and they go for the Nautilus. So I actually think these are two better picks. So Shadow gets his Lee Sin, and they get the Nautilus. Nautilus can be good into a lot of different compositions. They're not showing a lot with the Nautilus pick. And then you see the response from G2 is Trundle and Ezreal. So right now they're showing Siege, like they're showing heavy duty Siege. Yuumi's good in Siege, Trundle's good in Siege with it because his pillar can be used to disengage or it can be used to help assist the poke. And then you've also got the Ezreal. So they're looking at heavy Siege right now. And the response is that Mad Lion drafts the Kai'Sa. So Kai'Sa, fine in a vacuum, but she's going to struggle against a lot of this range. She basically, her ultimate is kind of like her one-way ticket to try and deal with this. So it's not a bad pick, but it feels like Mad Lions, again, is not identifying the G2 win condition. With their fourth pick, they wind up picking the Maokai, so they basically, they're drafting more for this heavy engage style. So I'd say that Mad Lions right now is going for attack with these 4 picks that they're showing, which definitely would be good into Siege. So what does G2 do as a response? They identify, okay, this team's going for attack. We're currently showing Siege as our first 3 picks, but we can transition into Protect. And they go for the Cassiopeia and the Cho'Gath. So this reorients their team composition from Siege to Protect with the Cassiopeia. And now they're in a really strong Protect composition, showing their 5 different picks. The options for Mad Lions at this point is that they either match the Siege potential, so they basically need to draft an Artillery Mage, like I was saying that they should have done in Game 1, or they need to draft heavy split pushing, like say a Rise or something like that, would be a possibility. But instead they go towards the Kiana, which again is more attack, more catch focused. So again, Mad Lion with their mid lane pick, I feel like they kind of shot themselves in the foot. So once again, G2 gets a Protect composition into a catch composition. And yeah, they were able to win that game. And I will happily do VOD reviews, full VOD reviews of any of these games if you guys ask. I just am trying to keep this video as short as possible. So we're only going through the draft right now. Now G2 is up 2-0. Finally, Mad Lions gets blue side. And you can see that it completely changes how G2 does the draft. They also change up the bans a little bit. So you can see that they do ban the Yuumi on when Mad Lions is on blue side. So G2 says, what the hell? We're up 2-0. We're going to go for like a full attack composition. So you see Misfortune, Gragas, Yasuo, Rakan, Ornn. That screams attack composition. That's one of the most attack compositions you can get. And as a response, Mad Lions drafts really a catch composition. They've got the LeBlanc, they got the Renekton, they got the Jarvan, all great catch composition. They rounded out with the Ezreal and the Set, which aren't phenomenal in catch, but they're okay. And Mad Lions winds up winning this game. So again, you can see catch good into attack, but catch is weak into protect. So Mad Lions wins game 3. We move into game 4, and you can see the adaptations that have happened. So if we go compare game 2 to game 4, you can see that they dropped the Kalista ban. So for game 4, Mad Lions leaves up Kalista and instead bans Yuumi, and immediately G2 pounces on that and they go for the Kalista. And Kalista, again, another good protect composition carry. So first pick, they're showing protect composition. The response is Set and Ezreal, which is actually a really good response because Set and Ezreal are both good into siege composition. So I like this response from Mad Lions. They're showing siege. The response from G2 is they're going Taric Azir. This is screaming protect. This is 3 of like the best protect composition champions you can get. So they're screaming protect composition, and the response from Mad Lions is the Lee Sin. I know that Lee Sin is a comfort pick for Shadow, but Lee Sin is probably not the best choice in this type of situation. I can understand wanting to go to your comfort pick when your back is against the wall, and I think that's why they did it, so I can't fault them too much for that. But Lee Sin doesn't pair that well, I think, with the Set or the Ezreal, and also Lee Sin doesn't really counter anything the G2 is trying to do in this draft. But I think that where this draft is really lost is with the 4th pick, with the Akali. So the 4th pick, Akali, I feel like, again, the mid lane pick is just screwing Mad Lions. This Akali pick, it's catch split. So your only win condition right now is either the Akali or the Set, preferably both, have to get monstrously ahead, and so they can able to run a 1-3-1 or a 1-4. That's your only win condition. So you're really kind of pigeonholing yourself into a really bad spot with this Akali pick. If you instead pick a range like I was saying, Xerath, Vel'Koz, Veigar, even like an Orianna, something that's got a lot of range, something that can control space, and then you can rely on that siege into this heavy protect composition. But they do go for the Akali. Now they're showing strong catch. G2 responds with Aatrox and Rek'Sai. So Rek'Sai doesn't fit very well with the protect kind of sense. Aatrox can fit pretty well because he can use his Qs to basically create a threat area that prevents Mad Lions from engaging. But Rek'Sai is basically just to track Shadow and make sure that Shadow doesn't run away with the game. So not the best pick in the Rek'Sai, but I can understand why they did it. And then the final response is that Mad Lions goes for Bard. And I understand the Bard pick. I understand that it's basically designed that you use the Bard ultimate to neutralize the Tark ultimate. Makes sense. But really, at this point, late in the draft, it doesn't help them that much. They're still showing catch. Unless you're Bard, you're basically relying on your team to outplay G2 in order to win. You don't have the win condition over G2. You either need the Bard to be like on point with every single one of his ultimates, or you need the Akali to smurf, or you need the Set to smurf. Those are basically your win conditions. And against G2, those are really bad win conditions. G2 basically is not on the clock. They don't have to do anything. All they have to do is go even, and they win the game, and that's pretty much what they did, and they were able to close out the series. So let's move on to the finals. So keep in mind, Fnatic, they saw the the semifinals. They basically were able to scout G2 and say, oh, this is what G2 is running in the semifinals. So they know that G2 has been going towards these protect compositions. You can see that they have adjusted their bans slightly. Very odd, actually, that they wind up banning the Syndra and the Kalista on blue side. Typically, we see those as red side bans. And they also throw in the Yuumi as a blue side ban. So you can see that they go Kalista, Syndra, Yuumi as their 3 bans. And they first pick the Aphelios. Makes perfect sense why they first picked the Aphelios. It's one of the premier AD carries. And yeah, I can't fault them too much for that. Then you immediately see the response is Azir and Jarvan. So Jarvan, not the best in a protect composition at all, but he is really good early game, and early game junglers can be really good if you're looking for scaling lanes. So a lot of times you'll see an early game jungler paired with scaling laners to basically try to make the lane go more neutral than it otherwise would have. Because if you have losing lanes all over the map, then it's very hard to kind of stop the bleeding, essentially. A lot of times teams can run away with the game. So I can understand why they want to go with an early game jungler. The response from Fnatic is they go Tahm Kench, which is paired a lot with Aphelios, and Veigar. I actually don't mind these picks at all. I think Veigar is fine into the Azir. I think the Tahm Kench is fine to pair with the Aphelios. So you can see that both sides are kind of showing protect at this point. G2 responds with the Ornn. Ornn is definitely more of an attack-oriented composition. So now at this point in the draft, I feel like actually Fnatic has the advantage. Their 3 picks are actually really good into the 3 picks that G2 has drafted. Where problems start to occur is in the second part of the pick phase. So you can see that G2 picks up the Lulu. So if somebody picks up the Lulu, that's screaming that they're going to go for a hyper carry like a kog'maw with their 5th pick. So yeah, they go with 4th pick Lulu, and the response from Fnatic is they go Sylas Lee Sin. I don't understand this. I don't understand the Sylas Lee Sin. I guess Sylas to try and counter the Ornn ultimate or something like that. But the Lee Sin feels very weird and feels very contrary to what they're trying to do. It feels like they're trying to win lane rather than win the game. And you can see 5th pick, kog'maw comes in. But now, boom, double carry protect composition. They've got the Azir, they've got the kog'maw, they've got the Lulu backing them up. And they've got the Ornn and the Jarvan either for engage or disengage. So remember, Jarvan can use his ultimate to basically zone off parts of the fight. Ornn can use his ultimate to zone off parts of the fight. So they can be used. They're used primarily as engagers, but they can be used as peel if you really need them to. So very interesting pivot from G2 to basically turn from more of an attack composition into a protect composition with their last 2 picks. This is exactly what you want to see in these type of drafts. I've been advocating this for forever. You basically have two compositions in mind, and with your first 3 picks, you leave yourself open that you can go towards either one of those compositions with your last 2 picks. For example, G2 could have gone towards an attack composition with their last 2 picks by picking, say, like a Leona Misfortune or something like that. So you can see it like how just 2 of those last 2 picks can greatly shift a composition between, say, protect and attack. So again, G2, fantastic draft phase, and they wind up winning the game pretty easily if I remember correctly. But yeah, really have to commend G2 on this draft. To move on to game 2, G2, they have side selection, they choose red side. So it's kind of interesting. Against Mad Lions, they wanted blue side as often as they could. And against Fnatic, they're wanting to go for red side as often as they can. So again, we see similar bans coming out on both sides. Again, we see the first pick of Felios. And then again, we see the Azir and the Jarvan as the first two picks. So far, the draft is virtually identical. And actually, the Tahm Kench also comes in. So we almost see like a salty run back, but instead of the third pick being the Vigar, they instead go for third pick Ornn. And the response from G2 is to go for the Zac. So again, it looks like G2 is showing more of attack than protect at this point, but they have left themselves open to transition to protect if they want. Meanwhile, Fnatic is showing protect and attack. They're kind of in a similar boat. And you can see with this fourth pick, they go for the kog'maw. So they go for kog'maw. They pick, so now they're basically pretty even between attack and protect, and they're leaving that support pick for last, which is one of the things I've advocated for a long time, is that the support pick can swing a composition one way or another very, very heavily. So the later you can delay it, usually the better, but that requires you to be able to blind pick your top laner or your mid laner, sometimes both, and G2 is able to do it. You can see the response from Fnatic is to go for Trundle Kassadin. And this is really weird because it's like Trundle is siege and protect, and then Kassadin is catch and split. So it feels like Fnatic with their last two picks, they go all over the map with these last two picks. I guess they're going for like the Kassadin win condition, like level 16 win condition, but it feels very strange, this draft. It felt like the first three picks they were on parity, and Fnatic didn't know what to do with their last two picks, and G2 did. So Fnatic shows their last two picks. This kind of defaults them into an attack composition because they're kind of overall all over the map. They're a little bit attack, they're a little bit catch, they're a little bit protect, they're a little bit siege, they're a little bit split. But in the end, attack is kind of the most dominant out of the five different possible compositions you can have. So G2, last pick, Lulu once again. And yeah, so it's a protect versus attack once again, and G2 wins once again. All right, final game. So this one I think was the closest, if I remember correct, for the entire series. But you have to understand, G2, if they have the team compositional advantage, it means that a lot of times that you're not on the clock. It means that the longer the game goes on, as long as you can keep it close, you are more likely to win because you have a win condition that's easier to execute than your opponent. It like matches up well into what your opponent's win condition is. So Fnatic, they make a slight adjustment and they first pick the Azir rather than the Aphelios. And I really like this adjustment because there's not too many mid laners that can go well into protect compositions. So yeah, I really like this pickup going towards the Azir. The response from G2 is the Aphelios and the Corki. I actually don't mind these picks either. I mean, Azir Corki obviously is a very boring lane, but it makes sense. Corki can work in protect, he can work in siege. And then Aphelios is great in protect as well. What I don't like is the Misfortune pick. So Misfortune is just heavy attack composition. The Fnatic is kind of tipping their hand at this point in the draft, going towards the Misfortune. Gragas is a really good pick because he's kind of utility. He's kind of all around. He can do a little bit of everything. He can basically slot well in any composition. So I like the Gragas pick. Misfortune, I know she's really powerful in the meta right now, but Misfortune like really biases your team composition towards attack, and it's very hard to kind of pull out of that once you slot her into your team. And G2 responds with the Ornn, which I definitely like. I think that's probably one of the best power picks they could have picked with their third pick. And then their fourth pick is the Trundle. And the Trundle is perfect because Trundle is great in protect. He's great in siege. And he can do a little bit of catch. So right now, Fnatic is kind of waffling between attack and protect. So basically, G2 is in a situation where they can either go towards siege if the Fnatic shows protect, or they can go towards protect if Fnatic shows attack. So G2 is in complete control of this draft phase. with the third pick and their fourth pick. And Fnatic winds up choosing Braum and Zac, which basically locks them into an attack composition. And then it's really easy. They just pick the Janna. So basically now you've got a Janna who can interrupt the Gragas. You've got a Janna who can interrupt the Zac. There's no real way for Fnatic to get onto G2. G2 has a really good scaling advantage. They don't have to really do much of anything. And they also have a range advantage with the Corki and also with the Aphelios if he's got the right guns. So I feel like G2 wins this draft pretty strong with their final two picks. And once again, Fnatic doesn't seem like they know what to do with those last two picks. So I don't want to kind of badmouth other teams because I feel like every team does this. Very few teams take in team compositions into their draft strategy. All they care about a lot of times, it feels like, is laning phase and the power of the pick in the meta. They don't really consider team compositions or win conditions. I feel like G2 did a phenomenal job identifying win conditions, identifying team compositions. Like, a lot of these picks are not really like meta picks at the professional level. Like, when was the last time you've seen a Janna in professional play? When was the last time you saw a kog'maw at the professional level? They're not very common picks. So I really commend G2 for kind of showing that you don't have to follow the meta to a T. You can think outside the box, and you can do really well by focusing on team compositions rather than just what the meta kind of dictates. So congratulations, G2. You guys definitely earned it. I was super impressed with your drafts, and I feel really happy because this kind of proved out a lot of the theory crafting I've been doing for a long time. I've been saying for a long time that protect compositions are underrated. Teams should go towards protect comps more often. I've also been saying that delaying your support pick is underrated. You should either delay your support pick or you should use your support pick earlier in the draft to really force a team, the enemy team, towards a certain pick that you want to counter or a certain team composition that you want to counter. And G2 did that perfectly. So I really commend them. And obviously this has got me very excited because, you know, I love all this analyst stuff. So I highly doubt that G2 was watching my videos when they came up with this. I'm sure that they independently came up with all of this stuff on their own. But if G2 or any other professional or amateur team wants to contact me, I would be happy to be an analyst or be a consultant. Obviously, I'm very busy, but I'm always looking to help teams, professional or amateur, doesn't matter what your skill level is. I have had people contact me that are just viewers in the past saying, like, asking me some general advice and questions, and I always try to respond back to them. So yeah, hit me up on Discord or something like that. I'd be happy to help you guys out. But with that, that's all I've got. I know I've been rambling for way too long. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to see like full VOD reviews or you want to see more of this content, please let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment, all that stuff. I'll try to get back to my regular upload schedule as soon as I can, but it may be a while. Unfortunately, I may be a little bit flaky for until, you know, a lot of this stuff calms down here in the States. So thank you guys for your patience. Thank you guys for your support. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. This is Randomonium signing off.